I just watched a new romance called Yano Kun's Ordinary Days, and I think it's anything but ordinary. Let's talk about it. Alright, what's up, y'all? Hope you are doing well. Back with another romance anime review. Today we're talking about a new show that just ended in the previous season of romance anime called Yano Kun's Ordinary Days. Kun-kan, I don't know, I don't speak Japanese. Sorry. With the previous season of anime just wrapping up and all these shows going to episode 12 and 13 and stuff, it's time to talk about the new shows, and this is the first one I watched and I really enjoyed it. And so yeah, we're gonna talk about it here today and review it. Unfortunately, no short this week. Sorry about that. There are a lot of things going on my other channel and different things. I didn't really get time to do it, but I promise you that there will be a short next week, maybe even two. I might reward you with two. I don't really know. Continue to try to do one full video per week. I know this video is out later than other times I do videos, but again, I just scheduling a lot of things going on this week, so this is about the only time I had to record. So yeah, and like I said in the intro, with the previous season of anime now done and all these shows now going episode 12 and episode 13 and stuff, I'm going to be reviewing more of the newer shows that just released, so we're getting more updated. The last couple weeks I've done more shows from earlier this year, even shows from years ago that I really like, but now we're going to be more modern and up to times with things, so be on the lookout for those. But now let's get into this review. So Ordinary Days, I'm going to call it Ordinary Days from now on, because again, I don't want to sound stupid by saying Yano-kun, Yano-kun. I sound so white saying that. So I'm just going to call it Ordinary Days for now, okay? I was very interested to see what the show is about. Looking at the thumbnail of the show, you see a lot of people there, and I've watched shows that have similar thumbnails, and they've always been really good. Had a lot of life lessons and stuff in it. So I kind of came into this expecting that, and you got it. But you also got a very, very wholesome story. Like, this is such a wholesome and cute show. And the main romance we're going to talk about today is Yano and Yoshida. Those are the two main characters. That's the romance we're going to get into today and talk about those two. Kind of a little background on both these characters before we fully get into the moments of the show. Yoshida is the main girl. She gets chosen as class president of her class, and she's very protective and kind of, I guess I want to say like a mom. Like, she's just very protective of the people she cares about and always wants to protect people and hope that everybody's taken care of. But she's an older sister of two younger siblings, so she always takes care of them, says, hey, you need food, you need water, everything good, I'm gonna go pick you up, what's going on. She does that with her friends kind of too, a little bit, where it's like, hey, you good, you okay, you need this, you need that, what do, you good? It shows she's just very, she wants to make sure everyone's taken care of and everyone's having a good time, kind of similar to like a mom. She gets good grades, has good friends, very, great person, very good, loving person that cares a lot, has a big heart, like a very good person. And then we have Yano. Yano is a new exchange student, I think, that comes into the school, and he is very clumsy is the only way you have to say it. This guy literally gets hurt every single day. I don't know what happened to him in his past life. He just got cursed with bad luck. I don't know what happened there, but this guy, literally everything he does, he finds a way to injure himself. Paper cuts, walking into walls, getting dirty, band-aids, just like any possible way you could possibly get hurt doing any simple task, he will find a way to do it. But he's also super, super wholesome and super, super like shy, clumsy boy that you just want to protect. Like, he's so nice, a great smile, just a really wholesome guy. It's just unfortunate that he just comes with some bad luck here and there, and things just don't go his way a lot of times. So now let's get into the romance moments between Yano and Yoshida. Right away, we see where this relationship is gonna go, with Yoshida worrying about Yano's injuries. Yano's a new kid coming in, she's the class president, wants to make sure everyone's taken care of, and Yano keeps getting hurt every day. He comes in with another band-aid, another brace on, things always happen, and she's just very worried about him and just realizing and just thinking like, dang, why does this kid get hurt so much? What is going on? So then curiosity gets the best of her, and one day her and her friend watch him walk home just to see like, what's going on, what is he doing? And on the walk home, you see he bumps into different trees and poles and just very aloof, and again, things always find a way to hurt him. But then after Yoshida helps a little girl that got hurt, Yano followed Yoshida because he realized someone's watching me, so I'm gonna follow them back. And it was Yoshida. Yoshida says, oh, I was just worried about you, you're getting hurt all the time. And he's like, oh, okay, thanks, I appreciate it. She continues to do this day after day after day, not following him home, but like just trying to take care of him, trying to help him. Always has band-aids outside, like, here, you got a paper cut, here's a band-aid, hey, you okay, always checking on him, and her friend is starting to be like, hey, like, do you have like feelings for him? Like, what's going on? And she's like, at first she denies it, obviously, but then when she thinks about it more, she sees Yano in a different light, and then she finally realizes, oh, I have a crush on him. So we get from episode one right away, we see like, okay, she has feelings for him. They do kind of come out of nowhere, but I guess maybe she just had this sort of internal connection to him. There's one day where Yano doesn't show up to school, and then when she's dropping stuff off at the teacher's office, the teacher's on the phone, and apparently she overhears that there's a car accident and he's in the hospital. And she gets so worked up. Obviously, you know, she's like, oh my god, this person's like in danger, a car accident, what happened? So she rushes to the hospital, literally full speed, Sonic, run into the hospital to try to see if Yano's okay. She gets there, and eventually we see Yano is fine. What actually happened was a truck was going to hit him, he jumped out the way, and when he jumped out the way, he hit a wall. And that's why he got hurt. And Yoshida obviously feels safe now, and she starts crying because she's like, one, this is so funny, like Yano's so funny, and two, it's like, oh my god, I was worrying so much for nothing, basically. Yoshida realizing her feelings, she wants to get closer to Yano, you know, because Yano, again, very shy boy, you know, doesn't really have a lot of friends, is very to himself, and so Yoshida wants him to break down his walls a little bit and try to get in as a close friend. And so she's trying to do all these different things, like bake cookies for him, help him out with different things, you know, try to get closer to him, but those things kind of don't work. Like, she tries to devise these little schemes and plans to get closer to him, but they never really work out. And so one day they're alone together on the stairs, they have a conversation, and she finally comes out and says it, like, hey, I want to be, you know, close friends with you, you know, I want to be, you know, I want to know who you are, basically. And that hits Yano because no one's ever said that to him before. At one point during this conversation, Yoshida asks, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to do? Trying to get to know him. And he says, all I want to do is live an ordinary high school life. Title drop, bang, bang, bang. He just wants to live an ordinary high school life. He wants to have friends. He wants to go out with friends, you know, have conversations like normal. Because apparently he hasn't really had that because he's so shy and other people just don't really gravitate towards him, apparently, in his mind. And so then we see the next day that Yoshida and her friend group take him in, they go do different things, they go eat lunch, you know, go hang out around the school, all this stuff. But every time they do that, again, bad luck strikes again for Yano, and something always ends up happening to him. So eventually the next day, he gets to a point where he says, hey guys, I appreciate you trying to help me out, but I'm not gonna eat with you anymore because I don't want to mess you guys up. I don't want to bring you bad luck. I don't want to, you know, take the fun out of what you guys do. So I'm just gonna step out. And while he's walking away, Yoshida has so many emotions, she bursts out and says, I'll make lunch for you tomorrow. Because she doesn't want Yano to leave the group. She wants to get closer to Yano again. And Yano's always blaming himself for all these things happening. So Yoshida just kind of got fed up with it and was like, hey, you know what? No. You're going to eat with us, and you know what? I'm going to make you lunch tomorrow. Take that. So she does make lunch for him. Her and the little group hang out, you know, they try to make Yano feel comfortable, they eat lunch together, do all this stuff. Her and Yano are alone, and she asks to eat lunch together from here on out. Seeing right away that Yoshida, again, one, really cares about Yano and his, you know, health, but also trying to make him a part of the group and really trying to help fulfill his goal of, like, you know, living ordinary high school life. That's what she wants, because she has just some sort of affection towards him. You know, we see right away she's about her business, and she comes down and is like, hey, no, like, we're not gonna have misunderstandings, not gonna do any of that. You're gonna come sit with us. It's okay. You know, I'm here now. I'm here to protect you. They also get together, draw for an art class, some cute moments there. Also, they have gym class together where she can impress, where Yano is actually kind of athletic. Again, he just has bad luck sometimes, but he actually is athletic, and at one point they're like throwing a ball around, and it's her turn to catch the ball, and she just drops it. And then the next play, I guess, Yano also drops the ball. And after this, she comes up to him and says, hey, did you do that on purpose? And he says, no, what are you talking about? But maybe there's something there, like he kind of did it on purpose because he didn't want her to feel embarrassed by being the only one that dropped it or messed up, so he did it too, showing that Yano also has some affection, wouldn't say feelings yet, but some affection towards her too, and really cares about her as a friend too. There's one day where Yoshida's walking home from school, and she runs into this guy that very similar to Yano. He's very clumsy, you know, he's walking into poles, in the bushes, just like, what the heck is going on with this dude? She helps, you know, walk him home, and we find out that this is actually Yano's dad. So, you know what they say, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, and boy were they correct with this one. Eventually she ends up hanging in the house with Yano and Yano's dad. They talk about their friendship. She spills to Yano's dad about, you know, why she likes hanging out with Yano. It damn near feels like a confession, but Yano's big airhead, so he doesn't really realize that. And then at one point, Yano's dad goes up to her kind of in private and it's like, hey, so you have a crush on him, right? And she's like, what? He's like, yeah, I know. But he also is very wholesome where he's like, hey, like, can you just keep being friends with him and keep protecting him? Because, you know, he's been through a lot as a kid. He doesn't have too many friends. So I hope if it's not about you, just, you know, stay by his side. So shout out to dad. Cute little moment where Yano helps out at a snack shop run by a granny. And he asks Yoshida to come by. And Yoshida buys a lot. And there's a cute moment there. There's also one point where the class is doing like new seats, changing seats. And the class eventually elects for them two to sit next to each other because they want Yano in the center of the room because bad things happen to him all the time. So just put him in the center where everybody's surrounding him. And then they also say, hey, put Yoshida next to him because Yoshida is like always takes care of him. So just have that happen. So the whole class kind of knows, hey, there's not feelings or anything, but they just know like they have a close relationship. So just put them together. At one point they form a study group and Yano is there and he's looking at Yoshida and this other guy named Hashiba very weirdly. Quick thing about Hashiba, he's like an athlete. Him and Yoshida are like kind of close because they are on like the committee together or whatever. And we actually get a point before this where Hashiba actually confesses to Yoshida saying, hey, like, I like you, whatever, but also I know you like Yano, so that's cool or whatever. You don't have to do anything, but just I like you. And we see actually a lot through Hashiba's point of view throughout the entire show. And he's actually a really cool, interesting character. Like I like Hashiba. They do him dirty sometimes in the show, but I don't think he deserves that much. I think he's a guy, you know, he just has a crush on the girl in high school. You know, what can you say? Everybody's been there before. Back to the moment though, at the study group, Hashiba and Yoshida are kind of close a little bit, and they both act very similar, where they both are like very protective over Yano. So it's like a mom and dad protecting their kid. That's one of the examples that the other people in the group say. And there's certain things where Yano is looking at both of them, and it's kind of, I don't know if jealousy is the right word, but he kind of looks at them and it's kind of like, huh, that's interesting. Like there's one point where Hashiba kind of does like the thing where it's like, hey, you have something on your face and wipes it off. And Yano just looks at him kind of like, interesting, like going through Yano's mind because again, he's never really been in this type of situation before. And he's gotten very close to Yoshida, but still not as close to the other people. So it's very interesting seeing him, you know, go through this and being like, but I'm close to her, but that's also happening. But what are my feelings? I don't really know. Throughout this entire study group day, Yoshida notices that Yano is acting kind of shy and a little bit weird, I guess, towards her, where he's not really talking as much. He's a lot more reclusive, you know, and she keeps noticing that throughout the entire day. Even when they go to karaoke and Yano's like sitting on the other side of the room, he tries to leave, you know, at one point to go get a drink. You can definitely tell like he can't even really look her in the eye right now, you know, just acting very, you know, shy towards her. And so Yoshida goes up to him in private and like, hey, like, is everything okay? Did I do something wrong? Like, what happened? And he's like, oh, no. They talk out. He's like, no, there's no way I can hate you or whatever. But they never finish the conversation because someone hits him with a door. Then after that talk, they're sitting in the karaoke room and two of the people in the group are singing kind of like a love song or whatever. And Yano was listening to these lyrics and he's like, wait a minute, I feel that. Wait, I feel that too. Is this love? And so now Yano is kind of exploring like, dang, love, liking people, crush, feelings, like this is happening now. Which is funny because again, we already from episode 1 we knew Yoshida likes him, but now having to wait all this time to see that he likes her is just very funny, the difference there. There's one day where Hashiba's at a store, the gas station or convenience store, whatever, buying a romance manga for his sister, and Yano is there. And so they hang out, talk a little bit, and he says, hey, you have a romance manga or whatever? He's like, hey, can I read it? Like, I want to learn about romance a little bit. And so he ends up reading the manga, asking Hashiba all these questions about love and romance or whatever. Basically, he wants to learn what love is. And he wants Hashiba to show him. While this is happening, on the other side, Yoshida is talking to her friends, talking about, like, hey, I want to, you know, I guess the only way I can say it is spark something. Maybe she kind of wants to be a little bit more, I don't want to say aggressive, but wants to kind of pursue Yano a little bit more and wants Yano to kind of open up a little bit more and wants to, I guess, apply pressure, maybe. I could say that. And so she starts to take a different approach of acting like one of the other girls in her group, Izumi, who's very bubbly and very like all out there. And so Yoshida starts doing that. And while she's doing this, Yano is realizing and recognizing all these things like, oh, I read this in the manga. Oh, I know this too. Oh, wait. does she have feelings for me? Do I have feelings for her? This is exactly what the manga is like. Basically trying to learn romance from anime, which is me down to a T. I mean, how relatable is that, huh? We get to a pivotal moment. One day, in class, Yoshida forgets her textbook. They ask, hey, put our desks next to each other. Yes, sir. Okay. They're in there. Yano, trying to turn the page, cuts his finger. Yoshida says, hey, here's a band-aid for you. And while she's trying to put the band-aid on him, he just comes down and says, hey, I like you. And that moment right there, honestly, locked me in. I was like, whoa, I just did not expect it. I didn't expect a confession scene like that. I don't know where. This is like episode, 5-ish? 6? And I was like, whoa, okay, let me really strap in now, because things are getting very interesting. It's just funny how he came out and said it, too. Like, you think people, like, again, him being shy, very kind of to himself, he just came out and just did it and just said it. You know, he recognized all these things and done the manga or whatever, and was like, okay, this might be like, okay, say it when I have a chance. And I don't know, because we don't explore too much about, like, we don't know if he said it like he meant to say it, or if he just said it just kind of like it just happened that way. We don't know that from the show, but it's still just very interesting to see that happen with him and see him kind of take a little bit of initiative there. And once that happens, he keeps it going. He locks in and says, okay, there's the target. I want it. Because then he starts to act more affectionate, doesn't hide his feelings at all in front of everybody. He's like getting close to her, you know, and saying, oh yeah, she's my type, you know, asking to eat lunch together. Like, he is putting his foot on the gas, which is very interesting again to see from him being the shy little anime clumsy boy, whatever, saying, like, basically leaving it all out there and being like, oh no, yeah, her, yeah, I like her, I want her. To everybody, it just doesn't really care. And I think that's so cool, because we usually never see that at all, really. And when we do see it, we see it from like characters that aren't like him. So seeing him just go out and do that, it was very interesting to me, and I was a big fan of it. I was like, oh man, this is awesome. He keeps doing this, and then eventually she takes it to a secluded area where there's just both of them, and they talk it out. She's like, hey, like, when you said like me, what did you mean by that? And he's like, I meant what I meant. I said, I like you. And they have little talk out feelings. He talks about his feelings of like, yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. And then I realized how much, you know, I like being around you, whatever. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I think I like you. So he just said it. And then she kind of reciprocates the same thing, being like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. Like, I also like you in a romantic way. And I also feel the same way about you. So we get a confession, and we get like basically a confession talk after right away. Again, this is like episode 5 or 6. We're halfway through the show and we're already getting this. And we love this. And it's super, super wholesome and cute. I did not expect it to happen like that. You know? Yeah, I guess you never really expect. Because again, with most romance animes, you have to wait to the last episode for them to confess and all this stuff. And you have to wait for the very long slow burn. This show didn't really have that much of a slow burn. Like, it's like, okay, she has a crush. All right, 2 episodes later, he has a crush. Okay, then we get 1 episode-ish of like the slow burn, and then right away it's like, okay, I like you. Boom, they're together. And I think romances that do that usually tend to be really good, at least from my perspective. All the ones I've seen that do that. And so yeah, I didn't expect it from the show. It was really nice the way they did it, and I was a big fan of it. So then the next day, they're in gym class doing things or whatever, and at one point they're together, and all the classmates come over and ask like, hey, so what's up? Like, y'all going out? What's going on? And they both kind of are like, they don't really know, because both of them have never been in a relationship before. They don't really know what going out means, especially Yoshida. So Yoshida's just in her mind being like, what does going out mean? Like, do I really want to go out? What does that really mean? And so eventually she gets into a situation where she's talking to her little sister's friend, who is a 10-year-old, and has to ask basically a middle schooler about what going out and what all that means. To which she basically says like, I just like talking to him, and we just like hanging out together and, you know, learning about each other, and that's basically what going out is. And so Yoshida's like, oh, okay, that's it? Then I was just overcomplicating things for no reason, just like an adult? And so the next day, those two have a conversation and agree to kind of like talk more and have more open conversations through line, you know, and just be more, you know, want to know each other a little bit more. And it's nice, again, we have a little bit of like a conflict, even though it's not really a conflict, and it gets solved like that, you know, stress-free. We're all good. We just talk things out. We love that. Then later, they go on their first date. They go to the movies. And Yoshida is stressing the hell out because she's so worried about what Yano could possibly do to hurt himself. You know, it's dark. They're sitting high up in the movie theater. Oh no, things could happen. She's so worried about what possibly could happen. She's like, oh my god, I made a mistake bringing him to the movies because oh my god, these things can happen. Being overprotective as she is. And then eventually she learns not to worry because Yano had a great time with the movie. Things all went smooth or whatever. And then after the date, they're walking home and he asks, so hey, is this a date? To which it was a very funny response. There's a moment where the whole group goes to this festival. They all wear yukatas and Yano arrives beat up and late, but he compliments her right away. W stuff right there. During this festival, Hashiba is the one that's they appoint him as in charge of Yano for everything going on. And Yoshida gets jealous because over the past couple of days, Yano and Hashiba, all these names sound the same. Like Yoshida, Yashida, Yano, Two Wise, Iba. All these names are just like the same, man. So if I say something wrong, I'm sorry, okay? So Hashiba's in charge of Yano, but over the past couple of days, Hashiba and Yano have become really good friends. And Yoshida noticed that and when did they become good friends? Where did that happen? And so you see her kind of be jealous of Hashiba for being having all of Yano's attention and being around with him all the time. And eventually there's a point where Yoshida and Hashiba are talking and Yoshida's like, hey, so when did y'all become friends? And he's like, oh yeah, there's this time when we did this and whatever and we're friends now. And he realizes, is she jealous of me? He's like, so my crush, I like Yoshida, she jealous of me because I'm hanging out with her boyfriend, who's supposed to be my rival. What the heck is this triangle? Then at one point, because Yano kind of got mixed up with the group and kind of got left behind a little bit, they asked Hashiba first, hey, hold his hand or whatever. And then eventually it's like, no, why doesn't Yoshida hold his hand? They're dating or whatever. And so Yoshida's going to hold Yano's hand, but Yano gets super weird about it and says, actually my hands hurt. No, we can't hold hands right now. And he gets too embarrassed. For the first time we see him kind of embarrassed because throughout this entire time, again, whenever he realizes something, he goes for it. He takes the shot. He doesn't care. This is the first time that he genuinely was kind of oh wait, hold on. I don't know, this might be too much a little bit. Then later during the festival, they can't find him. He escapes again. It's what happened? Everyone's kind of worried. Then he comes back eventually, and he said he went to a different booth and asked Yoshida to hold out her hand, to which she does, and he gives her a ring that she was looking at a couple booths ago and puts it on her finger. Again, W boyfriend. He said, oh, she wants that? Okay, I'm gonna go get it for her. Come on, man. This guy's making it happen. He's making it happen. After that festival and after the hand-holding thing, he still kind of doesn't know what his feelings are in terms of okay, why did I feel that way? Because he doesn't realize he was embarrassed. He doesn't know why did I feel that way? I've never felt that way before, but now when it's come to holding hands and stuff, I just got really nervous. What's going on there? And so eventually they talk about doing another study date or whatever with the group, but then he asks, you know what, can we just do it us two alone? Again, making moves, bro. He just does it. And so basically the entire episode is both of them stressing out about their study date because they talk about, okay, what do I wear? What do I do? How do I not be weird? And it's so, again, cute, wholesome. Both these people never been in this situation before, and so they're trying to just figure it out on their own, and it's super fun. Eventually they get together. The date is at Yoshida's house. They go, she cooks for him eventually. Kind of awkward a little bit because, again, this is both their first time doing this, so they don't really know what to do, what not to do, but it's cute at the end of the day. They have their study date, whatever. They end up walking home together, and before Yano goes back to his house, she says, hey, you look cool today. I like what you wear or whatever. And another really cute, wholesome scene. Later on, the group one day is out together, whatever, and they find out that Yano's birthday is in a couple of days. And so eventually on his birthday, they go in and they celebrate in class, give him a little surprise party, have all these snacks and stuff. The whole class knows about it. Really wholesome. And throughout his entire birthday, the group is sending him on a scavenger hunt to go all around the school. And eventually at the end of the scavenger hunt, he goes to the top of the stairs, sees a box, and it ends up being Yoshida in the box. It's a little funny moment, and then she ends up giving him her gift, which is an exchange diary. Basically so that they can talk more and have more conversation and want to know more about each other. And so they go to the library and they spend the entire day basically just writing in the exchange diary, writing down different questions, answering different questions, drawing things. It's super cute. I'm talking top tier wholesome material. At the end of the day, Yoshida writes one more question in the exchange diary and gives it to Yano. So Yano goes back home, reads it, and the question is about his eye patch. She asks him hey, why do you wear your eye patch? Do you have an eye injury that's not healing up? Are you okay or whatever? And so the next day we find out his answer was, oh yeah, injury healed, it's all good, don't worry about it. Basically kind of trying to give a cool short answer to kind of be oh yeah, it's fine, no, it's whatever. And it's kind of like, huh, okay, something off a little bit about it. And so she tries to keep asking about it, but every time they get a chance to talk, every time it goes to break, he runs away and leaves, clearly not wanting to talk about it. And so eventually later, she finds him on the stairway, and she's like, hey, are you okay? Like, what's wrong? And he says that eventually he comes clean that the reason he wears an eye patch is because he has two different color eyes, and people kind of like notice him and talk about it a lot with him, and so he just didn't want all the attention, and so he wears an eye patch on his eye. And I'll be so honest, at this point I thought it was something like crazy that happened with his eye, I don't know, but then I found out it just says heterochromia, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of a reason, I guess. She also feels bad about prying him about it, but eventually they end on a good note. Next is Culture Festival time, and Yano's actually getting involved in the Culture Festival stuff because the other people are kind of realizing how cool and how actually of a good person he is, and that makes Yoshida jealous because she's like, well, that's like my Yano. I knew first that he's cool and all this stuff, and now everybody knows that he's a good guy. Like, all the girls are kind of like, oh, okay, he's kind of handsome, he's kind of cool. All the guys are like, oh, shoot, you can draw. Like, oh, shoot. Like everybody kind of becoming like a Yano fan, and so she kind of gets jealous a little bit of like, dang, like,
but that's my boy though.
and then later at the Culture Festival, there's a point where the two are walking together, and some girls are like trying to take a picture with him because they're in like cosplay and he looks very handsome. So these girls are like trying to take a picture with him or whatever. And Yoshida just gets to a point where she gets really upset and tells him like, hey, delete that picture you took and like leave or whatever. And she gets really scary, so they leave. And so eventually they go to a secluded area where it's just the two of them because Yano was kind of feeling like, dang, there's a lot of people around, a lot of interaction. I don't know how that feels, so let's just go and hang out together. And eventually they end up taking a selfie. At the end of the day, behind the fire pit, there's a rumor that goes around, spread from within the friend group. They literally just made up a rumor. I was like, hey, let's just go spread this rumor. And they did that, if you hold hands together by the fire during the Culture Festival, the two people holding hands will be together forever. And so eventually those two almost end up holding hands. Instead, they end up holding pinkies. And she also realizes that the reason why he didn't hold her hand previously at the other festival was because he was embarrassed. And it's another very wholesome moment. Then we get to the final moment where, so, a little bit of story. Again, if you want my full context, I don't go into every single thing that happens. There's so much more that happens in the show than just the romance moments. But I'm more talking about the romance anime, or the romance moments, because that's what, I like, and that's what the channel is about. So I'm always going to, tell you, go watch the real show. Yano-kun's Ordinary Days. Go watch it for yourself and have your own opinions. And, if you want to know about the entire show and about the whole context of what I'm talking about, I'm always going to recommend go watch the original show, and have your own opinions or whatever. So, little backstory here. So, there's this other girl named Okamoto who's like, you see in the last couple episodes are like, not following around Yano, but it's like they always end up being in the same place together. And you can tell she's like an important character of some sort, but they never say why. And so, she was around at the Culture Festival and Yano saw her, and Yano kind of got like froze up a little bit every time he saw her. And eventually the next day, Okamoto goes up to them while they're walking the hallway and talks to Yano. It's like, hey, like, I know you remember me, whatever. And so Yano eventually takes her to a empty classroom and they have a conversation to where Yoshida eavesdrops on them. And then a little bit later, she tells Yano, like, hey, I'm sorry, I was eavesdropped on you. I heard everything that happened. And so he tells her the full story. And the full story is about the eye patch, and also why Yano is kind of to himself and doesn't have a lot of friends. TLDR, him, Okamoto, junior high, Culture Festival. Yano shows his eye to Okamoto, the other eye patch, and Okamoto's like, hey, you don't have to wear your eye patch, your eye looks cool or whatever, no one would really care. And so they're walking into the Culture Festival, a big sign falls and drops on them and kind of hurts them a little bit. And so then after that, a rumor goes around that basically that every time you look at Yano's eye that's covered with the eye patch, you get cursed, basically. And he believed that rumor, and that's why he kind of like doesn't like have a lot of friends or doesn't like a lot of people around, is because he thinks his eye is cursed. And so after he says that, he kind of like, it gets traumatic for him. And so eventually he tries to like separate himself from the group a little bit, like not talk to them as much, not trying to hang out with them as much. And just kind of trying to stay away because he remembers all those stories about the curse or whatever, and he gets really self-conscious about it. And so the entire friend group's like, no, we're not doing that. So they try to do everything to kind of get him back to normal, but he won't budge. Then finally, at the end of that day, they all are together, and Yano looks like he's just going home by himself, and they come up to him and like, hey, are you really like not going to talk to us anymore? Like, are you okay or whatever? And then he comes around and it's like, no, I'm not, I'm sorry. Like, I tried not to be near you guys, but you guys have been so close to me or whatever that, like, I don't want to, I want to be around you guys. You know, you're my friends. I want to have this life. I want to be with you guys. And it was so hard not to be with you guys. And it's a very wholesome end to the show. And then we get the final moment, the last moment of the show, where Yoshida and Yano have to go back to the classroom because I think Yano dropped his phone or something. And so he goes under the desk and grabs it, but he comes out and the thing on his eye patch gets stuck in the desk and his eye patch comes off, you know? And Yoshida looks at it and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't have to see that, or whatever. And Yoshida says, like, your eyes aren't cursed at all. It'll bring happiness to everybody that sees it. They have a little smile, cute moment, and that's how the show ends. So yeah, overall, I really like this show a lot. Yano and Yoshida's relationship is very sweet. You know, it kind of works really well. Again, Yoshida being the overprotective one or whatever, but Yano being kind of the aloof, clumsy one, but also the very wholesome and sweet one. Like, he gets Yoshida flustered a lot of times. Yano doesn't really get flustered too much, but he has a little bit of moments that he does that, and it works very well. Like, it's so wholesome and works very well. Again, I really love the way they approach Yano, where he's like, again, you would think he's very clumsy and very shy, or whatever, but he also has this, like, confidence to himself a little bit that's like kind of unexpected that he also doesn't even know he has. Or again, he could just do so many things like that and not feel an ounce of like embarrassment or whatever. Maybe it's the aloofness that really helps out with that. But it's really cool for that, and again for him to him finally finding his group, you know, his people, and you know, like, not believing in the curse anymore and finding people that actually care about him, are very protective of him. It's just so wholesome. And then for Yoshida's side, it's like finding someone that, you know, will kind of balance her out a little bit. Where Yoshida's very like, again, protective and very like, oh my god, I gotta make sure everything's okay. Where he's kind of the opposite, where everything's like, oh, it's okay, everything's fine. You know, the aloofness of it. It's a very good yin and yang, like Yano and Yoshida. Hey, see the whys there, haha. That it works so well together, and they have so many wholesome moments. There was never really any like drama or any big conflict that happened. Like, the big one, I guess, is at the end where he kind of puts himself away from them a little bit, but even then, like, it's solved like that. Like, there's never any big controversy, big drama, whatever. It's just a very cute, sweet, you know, show, and I love both of their moments together. I think the other characters are really cool. Like, overall, I love these two characters together. Like, I'm a big fan of this relationship right here. My thoughts on the entirety of the show: again, no drama really. It's so wholesome and cute, very kind of just, well, I'm gonna say realistic, but the way he gets hurt sometimes is not realistic at all. But like, I just love, like, it's one of those shows where you can just kind of throw on and not have to worry about anything. You know, like, again, not really much drama, no crazy, you know, stuff going on. It's just high school kids figuring out romance or whatever, you know, in life. And it's just cool. It's just one of those shows you can just throw on and just kind of sit back. That's what I did. I was watching the show and I just kind of was locked in and just kind of sat back and didn't have to worry about too much going on, because I was like, okay, how are they going to find their way out of this one? Okay, that's really cool. Oh my god, look, a cute moment. Oh my god, these two are so wholesome, you know, romantic. Like, it's just one of those shows where it puts a smile on your face, you know. And there's no value. I appreciate that, you know, because I mean, again, there are some times where you like the drama, you like the tension of things going on, whatever. And I will say also, like, for the show, like, the first episode I liked. There was a time from episode 2, 3, and 4 I was kind of like, okay, this is kind of getting a little bit stale, I will say, and a little bit boring. But then once we got to like Yano realizing his feelings, and like episode 5, from episode 5 to the end, we were just going. Like, we found a groove and we were hitting. And like, it was like, oh man, things are going and I love this. You know, so it took a little bit of time. Sometimes things start out slow, but you see the process through, and it ended from a halfway point on, it banged. You know, so I'm a big fan of the show. I like all the other characters, like Hashiba, the other people in the friend group. I keep saying the other friend because I can't remember their names right now. I'm so sorry. I like that. Again, love the wholesomeness of it. It's just a really cute show. You know, really cute show. You know, maybe people won't. Again, maybe people might find this a little bit stale. Maybe people find it boring. I don't care. Like, I think it's a great show. I think it's one where if you just love casual romance and just love to see wholesome stuff happening, this is the show for you. You know, so overall, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 2 thumbs up. I am a big fan. Yeah, that's all I got for today. Thank you guys for watching the show. Again, like I said earlier, keeping the 1 video per week, but also we're going to be doing the new romance shows. I have a full list of all the new romances that came out during this last season. We're going to get into those for the next couple weeks. I'm very excited to watch those. Don't know much about anything going on. I think this season especially, I don't really know anything about these new shows, so I'm super excited to watch some of them. I love going into a show completely blind, not knowing anything. You know, I love that. So we're going to do that. And yeah, if you did like this video, hit the like button. I really appreciate it a lot. And leave a comment down below. You know, comment about the show, about the channel, whatever you want. It just helps out the algorithm. So like, comment. If you do like the content, hit subscribe button. You know, if you like romance anime, you like hearing me yap about romance anime, you know, you want to keep up with romance anime kind of, you know, you like the channel, like what we're doing around here, hit the subscribe button. Also check out my main channel, Everyday Hoops. The link is in the description below. It's my main channel. I talk about basketball over there, literally the exact opposite of what we do over here. So if you like basketball, you know someone that likes basketball, you know, let them know about the channel down below. We're going crazy over there, putting in a lot of work. So do that. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Peace out.